Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. Starting a little bit late due to some technical difficulties, but we are here and we are excited to get started on today's Facebook Live. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. I see a lot of people in the audience, so thank you, everyone. Please let us know where you're joining us from. Let us know if this is your first Facebook Live or if you're a regular returning viewer. Our speaker is a regular returning speaker, so we're really, really thrilled about this and very excited for this Facebook Live to get underway. So thank you all for joining us today. Before we get started, I'll let you know about a sale that we have going on here at MyHeritage. MyHeritage DNA kits are on sale. It's our flash DNA sale. They're available at some excellent prices. So if you're interested in picking up a few extra kits for yourself, for family members, for holiday gifts, now is the time. And we'll be putting a link to the sale in our comment section. So make sure to check it out. I see a lot of hellos popping up here in the comments. So hello to Erin from the Chicagoland area. Let's see, we have Val joining us from New South Wales, Australia. Getting late over there. Jeremy from Mississippi. More from Bangladesh. So thank you all for joining us from all over the world. Of course, that's what we love about these Facebook Lives, that we have an international audience. We have viewers from all over, and it really connects us, brings us all closer together in our pursuit of learning about genealogy, family history, DNA from the experts and from MyHeritage employees. So thank you all for joining us. We'll be giving away a MyHeritage Complete Plan at the end of today's session. So to enter in today's competition, all that you have to do is leave a question in the comment section, or let us know about a recent discovery that you've made, something that's happened to you recently in your family history, some sort of breakthrough. Leave us a comment in the comment section, and we'll be choosing one lucky winner to win a MyHeritage Complete Plan. And I'm sure Dick will be speaking about this today, the MyHeritage Complete Plan, but it is the best plan we have to offer on MyHeritage. It gives you unlimited access to 14 billion historical records, advanced DNA features, as well as all of our photo tools. If you're not familiar with our photo tools, definitely go check them out. That's the MyHeritage Photo Enhancer. We have MyHeritage in Color, MyHeritage Photo Repair. So just some great tools that will help you fix up your old family photos and get the most out of them and be able to see details that you maybe didn't see before. So we'll be giving away that complete plan at the end of today's session. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker that we have today. So today we have with us Dick Eastman. He's one of the most recognized names in the genealogy world. I'm sure most of you out there know who he is. He's been at a few of our Facebook Lives, very, very successful ones that have just taught us all so much. He's been involved in genealogy for over 30 years after coming from the computer industry, where he worked in hardware, software, and managerial positions. And he is, of course, one of the pioneer geneabloggers, and he writes a lot about using technology to improve your family history experience, which is pretty much what today's session is going to be about, because it's all about the advantages of online genealogy record keeping. So something that, of course, we're very excited about at MyHeritage. And so let me introduce him and bring him onto the screen here. Hello, Dick. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing quite well. The only thing is I'm not sure if I'm looking at the same thing that you're looking at.
We see you perfectly now.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't, but as long as you can see me, I guess it's okay. And last time I did one of these, I didn't wear my hat, so so I'll put it on right now just to show you that I do have the hat.
It's how we recognize you, especially at conferences as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not used to wearing it indoors, so okay, I've done it. I did my bit. I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to relax, and we'll focus on the presentation for today.
Amazing, amazing. So do you want to give an introduction for today's session?
Yeah, I was, if you can just switch it right over to the slideshow.
Sure, let me bring them up now. Okay, there we go.
Okay, and I hope it says combining 2 or more family tree databases with MyHeritage, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, we have everything running correctly. I apologize for being a little bit late getting started. I think some of that was my fault, and we learned a little bit along the way. But moving right along, I'd like to welcome everybody. I didn't get a chance to see where you all are, but I'll take a look at it later. Now, the goal for today is to discuss what can happen when using 2 or more different online genealogy services. And now that I think about it, it's not just online, it could be offline. To give you a little bit of a background, I went through this a couple of years ago. I had been using an offline genealogy program, which I had been using for years, and I was quite happy with it. And I started using MyHeritage more and more. Hang on. And I guess it's time to turn off the cell phone now. And I got lost where I was. As I started using that, I was basically keeping 2 different databases. I was keeping one in my old offline program, and I was keeping another database in MyHeritage. And that turned out to be a real pain. And the more I continued doing that, the worse and worse it got. And I had to find a new relative someplace, say online, and then I'd save it in MyHeritage, and then I would have to manually go back and type it into my offline program. Then maybe I would go down to an archive someplace and do some research in person or on microfilm or whatever, and I'd find some new person there, and I would go back home. I would type them into my offline program, and then I had to turn around and type it into MyHeritage. And I won't belabor the point. Let's just say that was a difficult way to do things. I soon found I had to do a little bit better. There's another situation here when you're discovering new information on MyHeritage when you've already been using different online service or offline service, or you have been using researching paper records, which is how I got into this entire problem. So I finally said, this doesn't work. We've got to combine these someplace. And where is the best place to do it? Well, the answer to where's the best place is going to vary from person to person. It all depends what you are comfortable with. If you're really comfortable with your offline program, maybe you should continue it that way. If you want to keep it online, then I would suggest you do that. I chose to keep everything online. But the bottom line is I wanted to put everything into one database, keep it where I could easily get to it, and where I didn't have to reduplicate all the data entry. So if you've been using a different genealogy program to store data found previously, the way to do this is to put everything online and start by exporting a GEDCOM file. And I'll explain what a GEDCOM file is in a moment. You probably know, but for those that don't, I'll give you an explanation. Export a GEDCOM file from, in this case, from the offline program, and then you turn around and you can import it into the online program, which is MyHeritage or a similar program. And that way you get all of them together in one place. And all of the genealogy programs for the past 10 years at least, and I'm trying to remember when GEDCOM really came out. I can tell you when it came out, but it took a number of years before it became adopted by everybody. But it was at least 20 years ago that all the genealogy programs started supporting GEDCOM import and export. So if you've got anywhere near a modern genealogy program, you should be able to do everything I'm going to suggest today. Now, GEDCOM stands for Genealogy Data Communications. And it's an imperfect standard, but it's being worked on, and it keeps getting better and better. The original GEDCOM standard was released in 1984. Not everybody in the world adopted it right away. It took a number of years. In fact, it was a good 10 years or so before everybody got on board with it. The last update to the standard was version 5.5, which was released in 1996. That was a very minor update. Really, if you've got even the version 5.4 or something earlier, it's probably still going to work. There was very minor differences. Now, there was an incremental upgrade to 5.5.1 that was released in 2019. That was just a year and a half, 2 years ago. And that was a very minor upgrade. It didn't really make much difference. Just to carry on too, if you get talking to anybody about GEDCOM, you may hear somebody talk about GEDCOM X. That is an update that was released, but has never become very widely used. Most of the people still use the original and updated GEDCOM standard. For the rest of this presentation, I'm going to ignore GEDCOM X because it is so rarely used. I doubt very much that you have a genealogy program that uses GEDCOM X. So we'll just talk about GEDCOM, and we'll use 5.5 or something very close to that. Now, also, just for your information, GEDCOM version 7 has been announced, but it is not yet widely used. And we come back maybe a year from now and have this discussion again, we may be talking about GEDCOM version 7. But that's a rather recent release and is not widely used by other programs. So again, we're going to stay with GEDCOM 5.5 or 5.5.1. So what's the advantages of GEDCOM? Well, I'm going to talk about moving data from a computer, say an online system such as MyHeritage or some other online service, into a regular freestanding genealogy program like we've had for years, or going in the other direction. GEDCOM is two ways. You can import and you can export, assuming the program that you're working with it in conjunction with it also imports and exports. And most genealogy programs do import and export. By putting it all into one data source like I did a couple of years ago, you have only one source of data. This reduces problems in keeping separate databases in sync, and you don't have all these problems with having to update everything twice. It keeps your data instantly available, even on multiple computers. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But if you have only one computer, then you don't care about it. But if you have a desktop computer and a laptop and maybe a tablet computer and maybe even a so-called smartphone, the idea of keeping all your data in different devices but keeping them all in sync all of a sudden becomes very, very important. You can make an update, say, on your desktop, and it instantly, or the next time somebody turns it on, that data is available in your laptop or in your tablet or whatever. The ease of swapping information to and from other people is also a big advantage. If the other person has a computer, it's very, very easy. If you say, oh, I've got that person in my database, it's also my ancestor here, let me give you what I have. And it's just to click the mouse a few times, type on the keyboard a little bit, and then give that data to the other person, either on a flash drive or by email or some other method. I find keeping one database, keeping it online, just makes life so much easier. Also, if you keep it online, such as in the cloud or on, which is MyHeritage or some of the other online services, you have some advantages. Your data is always backed up by data processing professionals. These are people who know what they're doing. At least in my experience, they always know what they're doing. And it gets you out of the problem of having to troubleshoot various problems. In the same manner, upgrades to your software is made by data processing professionals. If MyHeritage or what other service you're using comes out with a new release, they will install it, and they will just automatically start using it. You just log on to myheritage.com or to whatever service you're using, and Shazam, you're using the latest software. So here's the decision time. You have to make a decision at this point. Do you wish to standardize on MyHeritage and import all your other data into MyHeritage? Or do you already have a lot of information in your offline program and you want to keep using it? Perhaps it might make sense to you to export data out of MyHeritage if you found, particularly if you found a lot of data about a lot of new people, and then export it into your other genealogy program. And when I say you have to make a decision, it's not a forever decision. You can make a decision and then try it for a day or two or for a week or whatever. And then if you decide you don't like it, you can back up and go back. It's not a one-time forever decision. So let's start first. We're going to talk about how to export a GEDCOM file from MyHeritage. This is a GEDCOM file that you just created from some other place, but it's in MyHeritage right now. And here is a GEDCOM file. You can almost read this with a human eye. And in fact, if you've been reading it for a while, you can get to the point where you can read it quite well. This is the beginning of a typical GEDCOM file. And I don't want to give it instructions on how to read it. I just want to toss it out to show you that it really is English language, but it's structured in such a way. Starts off with a 0. Always the first line is 0. It says head. It's the header. Then it's 1 is GEDCOM. 2, this was made with version 5.5.1, and so on and so forth. Then you go down and you get number 1 is a source where the original came from. And you got number 2, the version number, and so on. And you go down through, you got name, you got given name, surname, sex. Everything's, it is English language, but it's laid out in a very rigid format. And I've got news for you. I understand that version 7, which is still in process, is going to change radically. But this, for right now, version 5.5.1 is what most people are using. And this is what I would suggest you should be using for now. Okay, so again, we're going to be exporting data from MyHeritage with the intent of putting it into some other genealogy program. So here's your first screen. You go to MyHeritage. It looks like this. And you got a lot of menu options across the top. But if you look at one right there where it says Family Tree, that's the one you want for exchanging genealogy data. There's a lot of the options you can see here for discoveries and photos and DNA and so on. That's not this morning's discussion. That's going to be for some other time. So you click first on Family Tree. The next thing you see will be a screen that will look a little bit like this. This is a particular screen, a shot that I made a few days ago. And I happen to have 3 databases in MyHeritage on this site. You may have just 1. You may have a dozen. But you can only use 1 at a time. So when you're looking at that, you can look at it and say, oh, I need to have this one. So you go and you click on that one. In this case, I use the one called Eastman. Okay, very imaginative name. And this is the database that I'm going to use. This is where all of my data is stored in MyHeritage. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click over here. You'll see where it says Export to GEDCOM. I will click on that, and at this point, I didn't capture all the screens, but there's a number of them. It'll come up and say, what name do you want to give this GEDCOM file? And you give it a name. You give it Eastman Copy 1, or maybe give it today's date, or whatever name that strikes you. And that's the name of the file that will be, and then it'll ask where do you want to put it on your computer. And eventually, when you answer all those questions, you will receive an email message with a link to download your GEDCOM file. The GEDCOM file isn't actually put onto your computer when you first enter all these. It's actually put onto a server at MyHeritage, and then you receive an email message with a link to it. You then click on that link, and you can treat it like any other file. You can do whatever is appropriate, whether you want to save it to your hard drive or you want to print it out or whatever. It's up to you. I do not have step-by-step instructions how to import it into the other program because every program is different. There's at least 15 or 20 different genealogy programs. I'd have to have 15 or 20 different examples here to show you. But in most cases, it's fairly English language. It usually makes sense. And if it doesn't, you can call that program's customer support and ask them for assistance. One note here, though, I think you should keep in mind that a GEDCOM file, at least in version 5.5.1, which is current right now, the GEDCOM file is a text file. It includes all those items that you saw a moment ago, what looked like English language. It was in a rigid format, but it doesn't have any photographs. It doesn't have any sound. It may or may not contain links to the photo's original locations on your computer, and then you'll have to go back and manually copy them over. Okay, so that's how you export a program, a GEDCOM file from MyHeritage. But I did that because that's the simpler one. Let's go the opposite now. Let's go import a file, a GEDCOM file, into MyHeritage. This is what I selected to do, and I have done this once. I imported the entire database from my genealogy program that I had been using for several years that was resident in my computer. I went through one time, I imported it into MyHeritage, and that's all I had to do. There are ways, if you make a mistake or you decide you want to do it a different way, you can back up and do it again and again. I was fortunate I got it on the first try. So again, the same thing, we go back to MyHeritage, and I'm assuming that you've got your computer with the other genealogy program has already created a GEDCOM file, which is sitting on your hard drive right now. So the task at this moment is to go in and find that computer, find that GEDCOM file, and to import it into MyHeritage. So the first thing you do is you go click on Family Tree, exactly the same place as before. Now at this point, I wasn't able to capture a screen capture of it, but you will see a pull-down menu, and it's got 6 or 8 items, and one of them says Import a GEDCOM file, and you would select that. At this point, it goes and works about like most other computer programs. Oh, you want to import another file, and so it gives you a little one line of what it's about, and it says select it below, and then click on Upload. So you click on Browse, and it allows you to go in and walk around into your computer's hard drive to find that GEDCOM file that you created with the other program. And once you've got it, the location of it in that blank box, you found it with the Browse. So the program name is there. You go down and you click on Upload. And when you go to look for it, depending, this screenshot came from a Windows machine, a fairly new one. The older Windows machines will be different. If you run Macintosh, it will be different. But basically, when you go in and you browse around, you look for it where it is. And it might be all those presentations or something of that sort. But it's wherever your GEDCOM file is located. And whoops, let me back up. So you found it, you browse for it, you found it, and you clicked Upload. At this point, it's going to vary a lot. Again, I don't have screenshots because if you've got a small GEDCOM file of 50 or 100 names, it'll work very quickly. If you've got a bigger GEDCOM file of 30,000 names, it's going to take a while. It may even pause for a while and say, are you still there? Or do you wish to continue? The exact sequence is going to vary somewhat. And it's also going to vary depending upon where that GEDCOM file came from. If it came from MyHeritage, it works one way. If it came from Family Search, it works another way, et cetera, et cetera. But again, it's still, when you click on upload, you sit back and you watch, and you answer any questions that came along. That is it. That is it in a nutshell. The method of combining the two into one database, like I went through, was actually rather simple. I admit I've got a lot of experience with computers, and I've got a lot of experience with GEDCOM files. So perhaps it was a little simpler for me, but I don't think too many people will have many issues with it. As long as you know where that GEDCOM file is, it's fairly easy to come in. So Esther, if you can switch this back over to my face and all that, and let me know when. I'll take questions. I bet there'll be questions. Okay.
Great. We do have some questions from the audience, but a lot of comments about people who didn't know that you could play around with the GEDCOMs. Gloria said, wow, thank you. I didn't know about the GEDCOM service. Thank you. So a lot of comments like that. So that's just really nice to see. People learning new things about genealogy every day.
All right. Well, I'm delighted that I was a little concerned whether I should talk more about GEDCOM or more about techniques and so on. So that comment makes me feel better. Anyway, thank you. Oh, I'm supposed to have the hat on, right? Okay. Now I'm ready for questions.
So also a few great comments here from viewers who made some nice discoveries. Let's see, Magali said, my DNA is there. I found relatives I didn't know from around the world, from Brazil. A little bit of a scary story here from Maxine. She said, I found in MyHeritage recently a great aunt who was charged for having deceased babies buried in her backyard. So that's a bit of a scary story over there.
That doesn't sound socially acceptable, does it?
Let's see. We have Delva, who said, my brother discovered he had a second daughter who was 30 years old. He was delighted about the discovery, but sad about missing 3 decades of her life. So a lot of interesting discoveries here being found by our viewers. And then we have some questions. So let's bring these questions to you. So let's see, Elaine asks, is it advisable to do a private family tree and a public one separately? And I know we've heard this question a bunch of times before. She said, I find that my public one keeps having suggestions or alterations, which I feel are incorrect. Some I know are definitely incorrect.
Okay, that is a commonly asked question. And the only answer I can give you is my favorite answer. It all depends. I will tell you, I do the same thing. I do exactly the same thing. I have a public one and I have a private one. My reasons may or may not be the same as yours. It sounds like they're similar. My public one contains the records of all the people that I've worked on, and I'm convinced I've got correct information. Okay, I am convinced that I have gone through and I have found the original source and I have put it in, and I'm 100% certain it's correct. And if anybody wants to contradict it, I'll say, yeah, just show me your sources, and I'll consider it. And I find most of the time people don't do that. My second one is private for me, and it's what I call my work in progress database. It's things that I'm working on, and some of it is conjecture. I think this might be true, but I am the only one who ever sees that. Nobody else ever sees that. And I have it labeled as conjecture, or I may have it labeled as possibilities, or maybe it's something I'm totally certain of. But that's my work in progress database, and that is for my eyes only. So that's one reason for doing it. I really like the idea of having 2 databases. I find it fits my needs very well. It may or may not fit your needs, and I have to leave it up to you. I'm going to duck the question a little bit and say, you have to figure out what works best for you and do that.
Okay, we have a question here from Jeannie, and she asks, if you save to a flash drive, how do you know how many gigabytes a tree is. I only got the test. Oh, I only got the last half of the presentation, but it was great. Thank you. So first of all, Jeannie, don't worry, you can rewatch today's presentation. It's on our Facebook page. All the presentations get saved afterwards on the MyHeritage Facebook page under the videos section. So feel free to check it out. But basically, she wants to know how large of a tree it is, how you can tell how large it is.
Well, I'm going to go right back to my favorite answer. It all depends. I got to think about this for a moment now. You're asking me a question. I'm not certain the answer. I should know this. But on MyHeritage, I believe it gives you, before you go to import it, you click on Browse, and before you go to upload it, I think it gives you an estimate of the size of the file. Other programs may not do that. So the very simple and slightly facetious answer is buy a flash drive with a lot of storage space. Get your wallet out, spend a lot of money, buy a flash drive with a huge amount of storage space, and you won't have a problem. Now let's go back to the real world. Most of us, I happen to be sitting here with a flash drive in my hand. As a matter of fact, I was playing with it. And it doesn't say on it what the storage on this one is, so I don't know. I've got another one here, and this one says, you won't be able to see this, but it says down there on small font, 32 gigabytes. So again, the answer is it all depends. You may know ahead of time how much space it has, or you may not. It depends upon which flash drive you're using, and it depends also upon the program that created the flash drive GEDCOM. Okay?
Okay, we have a question here from Gloria. She asks, do we have to pay to get a GEDCOM?
Finally a question I can give you a definitive answer. No. Next question.
Okay.
GEDCOM files, to my knowledge, are always free. I don't know of any that charge you extra money for it.
Okay, an easy answer. And we have a question from Cornelia in two parts. I'm combining her two questions. So she asked, if my GEDCOM is gigantic, is there any way to trim the GEDCOM into one that just has the main branches? And her other question was, does MyHeritage have a maximum limit on imported GEDCOM files?
Okay, let's start with the first question. And repeat that again, make sure I've got that correct. The first question was?
Sure. She asks if you can trim a GEDCOM file into one that just has the main branches.
I hate to say this, but I'm going to go back to my favorite answer. It all depends. I will say that on the majority, it depends upon the program that's creating the GEDCOM file. So, we're talking different programs created by different programmers, and the answer is they're going to operate in different manner. My experience has been that most genealogy programs will allow you to trim. You can say, just give me all the ancestors of John Doe in Poughkeepsie or something like that. Or you can say, give me everybody. But I have to warn you, that is for most of the programs that I have used. That's not 100%. I can think of one program that I prefer not to mention here. I don't want to say anything bad about somebody else's program. But it just says, oh, you want a GEDCOM file? Here it is. And it gives you everything. So the only honest answer I can give you is it all depends. Now that I've said all that, I forgot the second question.
The second one, does MyHeritage have a limit on imported GEDCOM files?
Yeah, that I can answer. It has a limit, but I believe it's whatever you selected when you subscribe. There are different levels, which I don't have memorized right at the moment. But for a little more money, you can get a bigger database. So it doesn't call the size of a GEDCOM file. It's called the size of your database. But if you go to import a very large GEDCOM file into a database that you've only paid for a smaller amount of storage space, it's not going to work. Of course, you can always upgrade, pay a little more money, but so it's not a hard limit. And the maximum, the biggest size that MyHeritage offers is unlimited. And I don't think you're going to fill that one up.
Exactly. The complete plan that we're giving away today includes that unlimited family tree size. And
okay.
and a basic plan is 250 people in a tree. So if your tree is larger than that, you may not be able to edit the tree after you upload it. So, but of course, as it was said here, you can always upgrade after after or before. So let's see. We have a question here from Betsy. She asks, how do you track when to update data, and will it just upload changes or the entire file? So I guess if you've made changes to a GEDCOM file, then you just want to update the file as opposed to re-uploading the whole thing.
Correct. It's going to upload everything that's in the GEDCOM file, I believe. So if you created a GEDCOM file that only has maybe 10 or 20 people, it's going to update 10 or 20 records, period. However, if you create a GEDCOM file of an entire database from somebody, I believe, and I'm trying to think of an exception to this, but I believe it's going to update all of those records. And if I'm wrong, somebody please speak up and say so.
Okay, we'll take one last question here from Marco before we do our giveaway for today. And Marco asks, are photos included in the GEDCOM? If not, how can we transfer them on a large scale?
Okay, I alluded to this briefly in my presentation, but you've asked a very good question, so let's go a little deeper into it. And I'm going to confuse things by talking about the different versions. The version that almost everybody is using right now is version 5.5.1, and that does not automatically include photographs or sound bites or videos. It is just text. If you remember back when I showed you the format of a GEDCOM file, it was just text. There were no pictures in it. There were no sound bites, nothing. That is one of the goals of the new version 7.0, which is still in progress. It's not out. So the answer is going to be in the future that it will be able to either import pictures or provide a separate method of importing the pictures. The difficulty right now is that all the programmers who've written all the different genealogy programs have not agreed on how to store the photos. So the programmers who are working on the new GEDCOM version 7 have a bit of a problem trying to figure out how to go searching for the pictures, finding them, and exporting them out. So I don't expect an answer to that right away. But they are aware of it, and they definitely are working on it.
Okay.
So may I interrupt one thing?
Of course, always.
At the last moment, I realized that with MyHeritage, you have an option. When you go to create the GEDCOM file, it says, do you want to include the photographs that came from MyHeritage? That's if you're creating a file with MyHeritage with the idea of exporting it somewhere else, you have the option, and it will come in and it will tell you where those pictures are stored. So you will still have to do it one by one, but it's a lot less work than going out and searching for them on your own. Okay, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, that's a great point. I was going to say also that when you use a GEDCOM file on MyHeritage, if your tree was originally built there, then it'll include links to all the photos that you already have on MyHeritage. So another reason for building your family tree on MyHeritage, of course, and including lots of photos. We all know the importance of including photos in your family tree. Adds a lot of color to the tree, gives it life, makes it look, more interesting. I'm sure you have a lot of photos in your tree.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Let's just skip over that question and go on to the next one.
Okay, so now we're going to do our giveaway, and we're going to give away a MyHeritage Complete plan. And as we said, this is the plan that will give you unlimited family tree size, as we were talking about before. So if you upload GEDCOM file with a complete plan, you'll have be able to have whatever family tree size you'd like, unlimited family trees, as well as access to 14 billion historical records, all the historical records that we have available on MyHeritage, unlimited use of our photo tools, and so much more. So we'll be giving that prize away to one lucky winner. And the winner today, drum roll, the winner, oh, that's a great drum roll. So the winner today is Anne Feehan, and Anne wrote to us and she said, and you'll like this, Dick, she wrote a really nice comment. She said, I found a relation that his family left Ireland before 1900, and he was delighted to hear from me, as I was so excited to hear from him. I recommend DNA to everyone. So reuniting with a relative who's, family. I'm guessing that Anne is located in Ireland, and this relative and his family left Ireland, over 100 years ago, and they have reunited. So that's just so nice to hear, and it looks like it was thanks to a DNA test. So amazing to hear of a discovery like that. Anne, and we'll be in touch with you through private message to claim your prize. So thank you so much for that comment. Thank you to everyone who left us these really nice comments in the comment section. They're just such nice discoveries, and it's so great to see all of you making amazing breakthroughs in your family history research, and hopefully more thanks to today's session. So thank you everyone for joining us in the audience, no matter where you're located around the world. And Dick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invite, and it's been a pleasure, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, hopefully with less technical difficulties,
yeah.
but I think that's what keeps us on the edge of our seats. So thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you all have a great day.
You take care. Thank you.
Bye.